The message came on a Tuesday morning, a string of pulses from deep space that made the computers at NASA's Nevada facility light up like Christmas trees. Dr. Frank Miller had been working the night shift, his eyes tired from staring at screens, for 10 hours straight. He was about to leave when the first signal hit. "Hey, check this out," said his colleague, pointing at the screen. Frank walked over, coffee cup in hand. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. The signal pattern wasn't random. It had structure, rhythm, mathematical logic. "Run the sequence again," Frank said, setting down his coffee. "And call Director Allen." Within 3 hours, the facility was buzzing with activity. Scientists huddled around screens, arguing over the data. The signal continued to come in, steady and unchanging. A pattern of prime numbers followed by what appeared to be a mathematical representation of basic elements. Hydrogen, helium, carbon. "It's them," Frank said quietly to Director Allen as they stood in the back of the room. "It's really them." "We don't know that yet," Allen replied, but his voice lacked conviction. The government response was swift. By nightfall, armed guards surrounded the facility. Men in dark suits arrived in black SUVs. Among them was a woman in a crisp military uniform, Commander Lisa Wright of the United Earth Space Force. Lisa had been expecting this call for years. The UESF had been created after the world wars of the 2130s united Earth under a single military command. While publicly described as an organization to protect Earth from asteroids and solar flares, its true purpose was preparation for extraterrestrial contact. In Washington, D.C., the president called an emergency meeting. "What do we know?" she asked. "The room of generals, scientists, and intelligence officers." "The signal originates from somewhere near Proxima Centauri," said the NASA director. "It's artificial, no doubt about that. The math is too perfect, too deliberate." "Hostile or friendly?" asked General Harris, always focused on threats. "Unknown," replied Lisa, standing at attention. "But the signal contains no weapon signatures we can detect. It appears to be a hello." The president nodded slowly. "Commander Wright, your team has trained for this. Implement Project Handshake." Lisa saluted. "Yes, Madam President." Back in Nevada, Frank worked tirelessly with his team to decode more of the message. After 3 days without sleep, he found something new. "Look here," he said, pointing to a new sequence. "These aren't just numbers. I think they're coordinates. They're coming here." 15 light-years away aboard the scout ship Dagger of Truth, Subcommander Talak reported to the Xeraxian War Council. His gray, scaled face showed on the large display screen before Supreme Warlord Kavax and the other council members. "The natives call their planet Earth," Talak said. "They are bipedal mammals, technologically primitive by our standards. They have basic space travel but are confined to their solar system. No energy weapons detected. Their most advanced weapons use chemical propellants and basic atomic fission." Kavax leaned forward, his red eyes narrowing. "Resources? Abundant," Talak replied. "Water covers most of the planet. Minerals, metals, biological diversity, all excellent. The atmosphere is oxygen-rich. Population? Approximately 9 billion. They appear divided into nation-states, though they have some form of global governance." Kavax turned to the War Council. "Opinions?" Admiral Zakor spoke first. "A primitive species with a resource-rich planet. Standard procedure would be assimilation as a labor class." General Mivir disagreed. "The population is too large for efficient control. Reduction protocols should be implemented first." Kavax considered this. "Have they detected our scout ship?" "No," Talak answered. "However, they have detected our communication probe. They are attempting to decode its signal." "Interesting," Kavax said. "They are more advanced than they appear." Science Minister Durrell spoke up. "I have analyzed their global information network. These humans have a unique history. They fight constantly among themselves, yet unite when threatened. Their technological advancement is uneven, but accelerating rapidly. They went from basic flight to space travel in less than a century." Kavax drummed his clawed fingers on the table. "A potential problem species then, but still no match for the Xeraxian Empire." The council chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to Kavax. For 10,000 years, the Zeraxians had conquered world after world. 17 star systems now bowed to them. They called themselves the gods of war, and none had successfully resisted them. Send the first fleet, Kavax decided. Standard, conquest protocol. If they surrender immediately, minimal population reduction. If they resist, increase to level 3 protocols. Supreme Warlord, Tilak said cautiously, there is one more thing. Their information networks contain countless stories about alien invasions. They have been imagining this scenario for centuries. They may be more prepared psychologically than other species we have encountered. Kavax laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. Stories do not stop warships, Sub-Commander. Reality will teach them the difference. On Earth, preparations moved quickly. The United Earth Space Force activated its orbital defense platforms, primitive by Zeraxian standards, but the best humanity had. Commander Lisa Wright was given command of the UES Defender, Earth's newest and most advanced spacecraft. Our mission is to establish peaceful contact, Lisa told her crew as they prepared to launch. But we prepare for all possibilities. Dr. Frank Miller joined the mission as Chief Science Officer. His team had made progress decoding the alien message. They call themselves the Zeraxians, he told Lisa as the Defender moved into orbit. From what we can translate, they have a large empire, multiple star systems. Friendly? Lisa asked. Frank hesitated. The language contains many military terms. Conquest, subjugation, domination. I don't think they're coming for a friendly chat, Lisa nodded grimly. That's what I thought too. In homes across Earth, people watched the news with a mixture of excitement and fear. First contact, the moment humanity had speculated about for centuries, was about to happen. Some celebrated in IOD, the streets. Others stockpiled supplies and headed for bunkers. In his Montana cabin, retired Marine Colonel Jack Evans watched the sky through his telescope. He had fought in enough wars to recognize the signs of another one coming. He began cleaning his old rifle, more out of habit than any belief it would help against beings who could cross the stars. Come if you're coming, he muttered to the night sky. We'll be ready. In the darkness of space, the Zeraxian First Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 50 warships led by the dreadnought Inevitable Victory. To them, this was routine, another primitive world to add to the empire. They had no idea that the species they were about to attack had spent centuries imagining this very moment. Humanity had been preparing through science fiction, war games, and military planning. The Zeraxians thought they were facing primitive apes who would cower before superior technology. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 months had passed since first contact. The UES Defender floated in the darkness of space, waiting. Commander Lisa Wright stood on the bridge, her face lit by the blue glow of the displays. Every person on board knew this might be humanity's most important moment. Any response to our transmissions? She asked. Communications Officer Ryan Dobson shook his head. Nothing, Commander. They're receiving but not answering. Lisa frowned. Dr. Frank Miller floated over to her station. In zero gravity, his wild hair made him look like a mad scientist. They're studying us, he said quietly. Learning our language, our weaknesses. Preparing to attack? Lisa asked. I hope not, Frank replied. But yes, probably. The warning came too late. The radar officer shouted, "Energy spike, multiple sources." A blinding flash of light filled the bridge. The Defender shuddered. Alarms screamed across the ship. We're hit. Portside engines gone. Someone yelled. Lisa grabbed the command console. Return fire, all batteries. But it was too late. The Zeraxian ships moved with impossible speed. Beams of energy cut through the Defender like paper. Lisa watched in horror as Earth's orbital defense platforms exploded one by one. Send the message, she ordered Ryan. Code Red Phoenix. As the bridge exploded around her, Lisa's last thought was of Earth. They needed to prepare. This wasn't First contact. It was invasion. On Earth, people watched in terror as the sky filled with fire. The orbital defense platforms, humanity's best protection, were destroyed in minutes. Then the Zeraxian ships descended. Jack Evans was chopping wood outside his Montana cabin when his old military phone buzzed. He hadn't heard that sound in 15 years. The message was short. Code Red Phoenix. This is not a drill. Jack dropped the axe and went inside. From under his bed, he pulled out a metal box. Inside was his old uniform and service weapon. His hands remembered the weight of the gun even after all these years. On the television, the president addressed the nation. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed fear. Citizens of Earth, we are under attack by an alien force. This is not a test. I am ordering full military mobilization. All reserves are activated. Stay in your homes if possible. God be with us, all. Jack knew what he had to do. The nearest military base was 3 hours away. He packed quickly, thinking of his old unit. How many were still alive? How many could still fight? In Washington, D.C., the Pentagon became the center of Earth's defense. General Harris gathered his top officers around a holographic map showing the Zeraxian landing sites. They're hitting major cities on every continent, he said grimly. New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Cairo, Tokyo, Sydney, coordinated attacks. Casualties? Someone asked. In the millions already, Harris replied. Their weapons are beyond anything we've faced. Energy beams, sonic weapons, things we don't even understand yet. What about nuclear options? Asked an Air Force commander. Harris shook his head. Not yet. They've positioned their ships over population centers. We'd kill more of our people than theirs. In the basement of the Nevada research facility, Dr. Frank Miller had survived. The Zeraxians hadn't bothered with the remote location yet. He and his team worked frantically to understand the enemy. Look at these scans, he told his assistant, pointing at the screen. Their ships have energy shields, but they flicker at certain frequencies, and here, their weapons use some kind of plasma technology. I think they're avoiding nuclear weapons themselves. That's interesting. Why is that interesting? His assistant asked. They're killing us. Frank's eyes lit up. Because it means they might be vulnerable to radiation. Every advanced civilization, we've theorized, would have moved beyond nuclear fission. It's dirty, dangerous, inefficient. What if they've forgotten about it as a weapon? In New York City, police officer Samantha Carter led a group of survivors through the subway tunnels. Above them, Zeraxian troops patrolled the streets. They were tall, gray-skinned creatures with 4 arms and faces that reminded Samantha of lizards. Stay quiet, she whispered to the group. They have better hearing than us. A child started to cry. His mother quickly covered his mouth. Too late. Samantha heard heavy footsteps approaching the subway entrance. Everyone hide, she ordered, pulling out her service pistol. It seemed tiny compared to the alien weapons, but it was all she had. The Zeraxian soldier that entered the tunnel was over 7 feet tall. It carried a rifle that glowed with blue energy. Samantha held her breath, pressed against the wall in the shadows. The alien's red eyes scanned the darkness. When it turned away from her, Samantha made her decision. She leapt forward, firing, 3 shots into the back of the alien's head. To her surprise, the bullets penetrated. The Zeraxian fell with a heavy thud. The other survivors emerged from hiding, staring in shock at the dead alien. They can die, Samantha said, kneeling beside the body. They bleed. That means we can fight them. She began stripping the alien of its weapons and equipment. Help me. We need to learn how their technology works. On the Zeraxian command ship, Supreme Warlord Kavax received the early battle reports. The conquest was proceeding as expected, with one surprise. The humans are still fighting? He asked, his voice showing rare confusion. After we destroyed their orbital defenses? Sub-Commander Tilak nodded nervously. Yes, Supreme Warlord. They continue to resist in all sectors. Our ground forces report unexpected casualties. From primitives with chemical weapons. Impossible. The humans are adaptable. Talak said carefully. They're already attempting to use our own weapons against. A squad in their New York region was ambushed. One warrior was killed, his equipment taken. Kavak slammed his fist on the command console. Find the humans responsible. Make an example of them. There's more, Talak continued. Our scientists report that the humans' use of nuclear fission technology is more extensive than we realized. They have weapons. Primitive atomic bombs, Kavaks interrupted. Barely worth noticing. Yes, but our warriors have not faced radiation weapons in 10,000 years. Our current armor has no protection against it. Kavaks fell silent, thinking. After a moment, he said, Accelerate the landing schedule. I want control of all major population centers within 7 days. Then we will deal with their nuclear capabilities. 6 months into the war, humanity was bloodied but unbroken. The Xeraxians controlled the major cities, but the countryside belonged to human resistance fighters. Colonel Jack Evans, now leading. A special forces team had become a symbol of human resilience. His latest mission had brought him to what remained of the Nevada research facility. Dr. Frank Miller had requested a meeting. We've figured out how to disable their shields, Frank said, his eyes wild with excitement and lack of sleep. It's a virus, a computer virus. Their technology is advanced, but their security is designed to stop other advanced species. They never expected a primitive virus. Jack looked at the small device Frank held up. How do we deliver it? Frank smiled thinly. That's why I needed you, Colonel. Someone has to get this to their mothership. Jack took the device. A suicide mission. Probably, Frank admitted. But if it works, we get a clean shot at their command structure. Jack nodded. I'll need volunteers. Good ones. Neither man spoke. What they both thought, that even with this advantage, humanity's chances were slim. But it was a chance. And humans, as the Xeraxians were learning, would fight with everything they had, down to their last breath. The mountain camp buzzed with activity as Colonel Jack Evans addressed his team. 6 months of fighting had changed him. His face was thinner, his eyes harder. A scar ran from his left eye to his jaw, the result of a close encounter with a Xeraxian. Blade, this is our target, Jack said, pointing to a crude map of a Xeraxian command post. Intel says Sub-Warlord Durax is inside. He's in charge of the North American occupation. Greg Howard, the team's explosives expert, studied the map. Once a construction worker from Ohio, Greg now used his knowledge of demolition to destroy alien structures. Those walls look thick, he said. I'll need to place charges at these points. He marked 3 spots on the map. Amy Peterson, the team's sniper, nodded. Before the invasion, she had been training for the Olympics. Now she used her steady hands and keen eyes to target Xeraxian officers. I can cover the main entrance from that ridge, she said. But their patrols are heavy in that area. Jack nodded. We move at night. Their night vision isn't as good as ours, it's one advantage we have. The team members checked their weapons. Some carried stolen Xeraxian energy rifles. Others preferred human guns, which the aliens often overlooked in their arrogance. Remember, Jack said before dismissing them, we're not just fighting for ourselves. Every Xeraxian commander we take out buys time for Dr. Miller's plan. In what had once been a shopping mall in Kansas, Dr. Frank Miller worked on his virus. The mall had been converted to a secret lab, hidden from Xeraxian scanners by layers of lead and special materials salvaged from alien craft. How's it coming? Asked his assistant. Frank rubbed his tired eyes. The virus works in simulation. It will shut down their shields for about 3 minutes. Not long, but enough for a targeted strike. And how do we deliver it? Frank pointed to a small device on the table. This needs to be connected directly to their main computer system on the mothership. Once activated, it will spread through their network. That's a suicide mission, his assistant said quietly. Frank nodded. Colonel Evans knows. His team is still willing to try. In New York, Samantha Carter watched the Xeraxian prison camp from a broken window. For months, she had led a resistance cell, gathering information and freeing human prisoners when possible. Today, they planned their biggest operation yet. They keep the prisoners weak, Samantha told her team. Limited food, constant work. But there are thousands of them. If we can arm even a few hundred, we could take the whole camp. The guards have energy shields, said a man beside her. Our bullets just bounce off. Samantha smiled grimly. Not anymore. She held up a modified human rifle. We've adapted. The bullets are now coated with a material that disrupts their shield frequency. Not many, but enough for the first wave. Her team looked at her with respect and fear. Samantha had changed from a police officer who protected the peace to a guerrilla leader who had personally killed dozens of Xeraxians. On the Xeraxian mothership, Supreme Warlord Kavax faced an angry war council. This conquest is taking too long, said Admiral Zikor. A primitive world like this should have fallen in days, not months. Kavax glared at the Admiral. You underestimate these humans. They fight differently than any species we have conquered before. How so? Asked Science Minister Durol, genuinely curious. They do not surrender when defeated, Kavax said. Their cities fall, their leaders die, yet they continue fighting. Their largest armies have been destroyed, but now they fight in small groups, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Sub-Warlord Dirax joined the conversation from his base on Earth. His image flickered on the large screen. The humans adapt quickly, Dirax reported. They are learning to use our own weapons against us. They modify their primitive guns to penetrate our shields. They set traps. They use their knowledge of their planet to hide where our scanners cannot find them. Then find better ways to track them, Admiral Zikor demanded. Use the orbital scanners. We have tried, Dirax said, frustration evident in his voice. They hide underground in structures lined with materials that block our scans. They move at night. They use their planet's weather against us. Kavax tapped his claws on the command table. What do you suggest, Dirax? Allow me to use cleansing. Protocols, Dirax said. Targeted strikes to eliminate large population centers. Fear will force the survivors to surrender. Kavax considered this. The cleansing protocols would destroy much of Earth's infrastructure and resources, but might end the costly war. No, he decided finally. We came for this planet's resources. Cleansing would render large areas unusable. Increase the ground. Forces instead. Hunt down their resistance leaders. After the meeting, Science Minister Durol approached Kavax privately. Supreme Warlord, I have been studying human history, Durol said. I believe I understand why they are such difficult opponents. Explain, Kavax ordered. The humans have been fighting each other for their entire history, Durol said. They are used to war. But more importantly, they have a concept they call freedom that they value above life itself. Many would rather die than be enslaved. Kavax laughed harshly. All species want to be free. Not like humans, Durol insisted. Most species we conquered accepted their place once defeated. Humans never accept defeat. It is not in their nature. Kavax dismissed the Science Minister's concerns. Nature can be broken, Minister. Every creature learns its place eventually. That night, Jack Evans and his team approached the Xeraxian command post. They moved silently through the forest, their faces blackened with mud to hide their heat signatures. Greg placed his charges at the base of the wall, while Amy found her sniping position on a nearby hill. Jack and two others waited in the shadows for the signal. When the explosions ripped through the night, the Xeraxian guards rushed toward the breach in the wall. Amy's rifle cracked 3 times, and 3 guards fell. Jack led his team through the smoke and confusion. Inside, they fought room by room. Xeraxian energy weapons left scorch marks on the walls. Human bullets found gaps in alien armor. It was close, brutal fighting. Jack found Sub-Warlord Dirax in the command center. The Xeraxian was larger than the others, his gray skin marked with red stripes of rank. Drax fired his weapon, missing Jack by inches. The energy beam melted the metal door behind him. Jack rolled to the side and fired his modified rifle. The bullet passed through Dirax's shield and struck his arm. The Xeraxian roared in pain and surprise. Impossible, Dirax shouted. Primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Jack smiled grimly. We adapted. He fired again and Dirax fell. As alarms blared throughout the compound, Jack quickly downloaded data from the Xeraxian computers using a device Dr. Miller had given him. Then he ordered retreat. The team fled into the night as Xeraxian reinforcements arrived. They had struck a blow against the aliens, but the war was far from over. Back at their hidden base, Jack transmitted the stolen data to Dr. Miller. It contained information about the mothership's defenses, patrol schedules, and most importantly, access codes. "This is it," Jack told his team. "With this information, we can get aboard the mothership. One chance to upload the virus and give Earth a fighting chance." Amy cleaned her rifle as she asked, "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow," Jack said. "Rest today. We're going to space." Around the world, similar resistance groups were preparing their own attacks. In a coordinated plan they called Operation Thunderbolt, humans would rise up against their invaders all at once. It was humanity's best hope, perhaps their last hope. On the mothership, Kivax felt something he had not experienced in centuries: doubt. These humans were unlike any enemy the Xeraxians had faced before. Perhaps, he thought briefly, we have finally met our match. He quickly dismissed the thought. No primitive species could defeat the gods of war. It was unthinkable. Dawn broke over what remained of Chicago. The morning light revealed broken buildings and empty streets. A lone Xeraxian patrol moved through the ruins, their scaled forms alert for any sign of humans. They did not see Samantha Carter watching. From a hidden bunker beneath a collapsed store, she had traveled from New York with 20 of her best fighters. Today was the day. Operation Thunderbolt would begin in exactly 1 hour. "Are the other teams in position?" she asked her radio operator. "Yes, Sydney, London, Beijing, Moscow, all reporting ready." Samantha checked her weapons one last time. 6 months of fighting had taught humans many lessons about Xeraxian technology. Her rifle now had special bullets that could penetrate their shields. Around her neck hung a device that masked her heat signature. "Remember," she told her team, "when the prison camp gates open, we'll have 3 minutes to arm as many prisoners as possible. Then we take the command center." In orbit above Earth, Colonel Jack Evans and his team approached the Xeraxian mothership in a stolen shuttle. Greg Howard piloted the craft while Amy Peterson watched the scanners. "Their patrol ships are moving away," Amy reported. "The access codes are working." Jack nodded, his face grim. In his pocket was Dr. Miller's virus device. In his mind was a map of the mothership based on stolen data. Their mission was simple but nearly impossible: reach the main computer core, upload the virus, and somehow escape before the entire Xeraxian fleet turned on them. "Docking in 30 seconds, Greg announced. The shuttle connected to the mothership with a soft thud. Jack turned to his team. "Whatever happens today, remember why we're here. Not just for Earth, but for everyone these monsters have conquered." The team moved into the mothership, using stolen Xeraxian armor to disguise themselves. The ship was enormous, with high ceilings and wide corridors built for the tall aliens. "This way," Jack whispered, following the memorized path to the central core. They passed Xeraxian crew members who barely glanced at them. The disguises worked, at least for now, but as they neared the computer core, an alarm suddenly blared. Throughout the ship. "We've been detected," Amy said. "Run," Jack ordered. They sprinted toward the core, no longer hiding. Xeraxian guards appeared ahead, raising their weapons. Amy fired first, her shots finding gaps in their armor. Greg threw a grenade that sent the aliens diving for cover. The team fought their way to a massive door marked with alien symbols. "This is it," Jack said. "The computer core. Greg, get it open." Greg attached a small device to the door's control panel. Seconds later, the door slid open. Inside was a chamber filled with glowing panels and cables. At the center stood a crystal column pulsing with light. "Cover the door," Jack ordered as he approached the crystal. "I need 2 minutes to upload the virus." Before he could reach the central column, a side door opened. Supreme Warlord Kivax entered, flanked by elite guards. He was taller than the other Xeraxians, his scales darker, his eyes burning red with anger. "Humans," Kivax growled. "You dare to invade my ship?" Jack's team opened fire, but the guards' shields were stronger than any they had encountered before. Their bullets bounced away harmlessly. "Keep firing," Jack shouted as he ran toward the crystal column. He had to reach it. Everything depended on uploading the virus. A guard fired, the energy beam hitting Jack in the leg. He fell but continued, crawling toward the column. Amy provided covering fire, her special bullets finally penetrating one guard's shield. The alien fell with a screech. "Impossible!" Kovacs shouted. "No primitive weapon can harm my elite guard." Greg laughed as he fired again. "We're not as primitive as you think." On Earth, Operation Thunderbolt began exactly on time. In prison camps and occupied cities across the globe, humans rose up against their captors. In New York, Samantha Carter led her team into the largest camp, freeing thousands of prisoners and arming them with hidden weapons. "For Earth," Samantha shouted as they stormed the Xeraxian command center. The aliens fought back fiercely, but they were surprised by the coordination of the human attack. In every major city, at the exact same moment, the resistance struck. It was a level of global cooperation unlike anything in human history. Dr. Frank Miller watched from his underground lab as reports came in. The uprising was working, but everything depended on Jack's team. Without the virus to disable the Xeraxian shields, the mothership would simply destroy Earth from orbit once Kovacs realized he was losing ground control. "Come on, Jack," Frank whispered to himself. "You can do it." On the mothership, Jack reached the crystal column despite his wounded leg. Blood trailed behind him on the floor. The device from Dr. Miller was in his hand, ready to be connected. Kovacs saw what he was doing and moved with surprising speed for his size. He grabbed Jack by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "You really thought you could defeat us?" Kovacs growled. "We are the gods of war. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your primitive planet is nothing." Jack struggled to breathe as Kovacs squeezed his throat. Behind them, the rest of Jack's team was pinned down by guard fire. This was the end, Jack thought. They had failed. Then an unexpected sound filled the chamber. Alarms, different from before. The ship shuddered. "Supreme Warlord," a voice called over the ship's communication system. "The humans have launched nuclear weapons at our fleet." Kovacs turned in surprise, his grip on Jack loosening slightly. It was enough. Jack brought up Dr. Miller's device and slammed it into the crystal column. It connected with a click and began to glow. "No!" Kovacs shouted, throwing Jack aside, but it was too late. The virus was uploading. Across the mothership, systems began to flicker. The shields protecting the Xeraxian fleet started to fail, in orbit. Around Earth, human nuclear missiles that had been launched as part of Operation Thunderbolt were approaching the alien fleet. Without shields, the Xeraxian ships were suddenly vulnerable. Kovacs watched in horror on the display screens as the first nuclear explosion engulfed one of his warships. Then another, and another. The mighty fleet that had conquered 17 star systems was being torn apart by what they had considered primitive weapons. "How?" Kovacs demanded, turning to Jack, who lay bleeding on the floor. "How did you know our shields couldn't withstand nuclear radiation?" Jack smiled through his pain. "We noticed you never used nuclear weapons against us. We figured there must be a reason." Outside the computer core, the fighting had paused as both humans and Xeraxians watched the destruction of the fleet on display screens. The elite guards looked to Kovacs for orders, their confidence shaken for the first time. Jack's team seized the moment. Greg launched himself at the nearest guard while Amy fired at another. The chamber erupted in chaos once more. Jack pulled himself up against the crystal column. The virus had done its job. Now they needed to escape, to get back to Earth and join, the final push to drive the invaders away. But first they had to deal with Supreme Warlord Kovacs, who was now approaching Jack with murder in his eyes. "Your victory will be short-lived, human," Kovacs growled. "I will destroy your entire planet. For this." Jack braced himself for the final confrontation, knowing that the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Supreme Warlord Kovacs lunged at Jack, his clawed hand swiping through the air. Despite his injured leg, Jack rolled aside, the alien's claws missing him by inches. The mothership shuddered as another explosion rocked the Xeraxian fleet outside. "Your entire race will pay for this!" Kovacs roared. Jack pulled himself behind a console, breathing hard. His team was still fighting the elite guards near the entrance. He was on his own against the Xeraxian leader. You've lost, Kavax, Jack called out. Your fleet is being destroyed. Your ground forces are under attack all over Earth. Kavax laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. I have conquered 17 worlds, human. This is merely a setback. The alien stalked forward, his red eyes glowing with hatred. Jack looked around desperately for a weapon. His rifle lay several feet away, dropped when Kavax had grabbed him. As Kavax approached, Jack noticed something on the console next to him. A Xeraxian control panel with symbols he recognized from the stolen data. It controlled the ship's internal security systems. Jack hit several buttons in quick succession. Suddenly, metal barriers dropped from the ceiling, separating Kavax from Jack. The Xeraxian leader roared in frustration, slamming his fists against the barrier. Greg, Amy, Jack called to his teammates. Time to go. Amy fired a final shot at an elite guard, then ran to help Jack. Greg threw his last grenade to cover their retreat. Together, they limped toward the exit. The virus? Amy asked. Jack nodded. Uploaded. Earth has its chance now. As they reached the corridor outside, they heard a terrible sound of tearing metal. Kavax was breaking through the barrier. Run, Jack ordered. They sprinted through the corridors of the mothership, alarms blaring around them. Xeraxian crew members were in chaos, some running to battle stations, others evacuating as systems failed across the ship. The team reached their stolen shuttle just as the mothership began to list to one side. Greg jumped into the pilot's seat and started the engines. Hang on, he shouted as he detached from the docking port. The shuttle shot away from the mothership, just as several more nuclear explosions lit up the space around them. The Xeraxian fleet was in disarray, their ships vulnerable without shields. Head for Earth, Jack ordered. We need to join the ground fight. On Earth, Operation Thunderbolt had taken the Xeraxians completely by surprise. In New York, Samantha, Carter led thousands of freed prisoners as they overwhelmed the alien guards. Similar scenes played out in cities worldwide. When the Xeraxian shields failed, the tide turned decisively. Human weapons that had been mostly useless against the aliens suddenly became effective. The invaders found themselves outnumbered and increasingly outgunned. Dr. Frank Miller watched the data feeds from his underground lab. The virus had worked even better than expected. Not only had it disabled the shields, but it was spreading through all Xeraxian systems, corrupting their targeting computers and communication networks. This is Dr. Miller to all resistance units, he broadcast. The mothership shields are down. Repeat, all Xeraxian shields are vulnerable. Attack now. In the command center of the New York occupation zone, Samantha Carter received the message. Her forces had already captured the main building, but alien reinforcements were arriving. All units, she ordered, target their power generators. Their weapons will fail without power. The human fighters, a mix of former soldiers and civilians who had learned to fight during the occupation, rushed forward with renewed energy. Their bullets now penetrated the Xeraxian armor that had once seemed impervious. Jack's shuttle made a rough landing outside what had once been Chicago. The city was a battleground with humans and Xeraxians fighting street by street. Jack and his team joined the fight despite their injuries. Push them back, Jack shouted to a group of resistance fighters. Their shields are down. Their fleet is crippled. The news spread like wildfire among the human forces. After months of fighting a seemingly hopeless battle, they now had a real chance at victory. The invaders were on the run. On the damaged mothership, Supreme Warlord Kavax watched in disbelief as his forces retreated across Earth. Screen after screen showed Xeraxian units being overwhelmed by human attackers. Impossible, he whispered. They are primitives. We are the gods of war. An officer approached, his posture showing fear. Supreme Warlord, we have lost contact with 60% of our ground forces. The humans have captured our main bases in what they call North America and Asia. And our fleet? The officer hesitated. 70% destroyed or disabled, Supreme Warlord. The human nuclear weapons. He didn't finish the sentence. Kavax stared at the tactical display. For the first time in his long life, he faced defeat. The humans, a species he had dismissed, as primitive and weak, had broken the mighty Xeraxian empire. Order all remaining ships to form a defensive perimeter, Kavax commanded. Prepare for immediate departure from this system. You're ordering a retreat, Supreme Warlord? the officer asked in shock. Kovacs struck the officer, sending him sprawling. It is a strategic withdrawal. We will return with a larger force. But in his heart, Kovacs knew the truth. The Xeraxian Empire had met its match. 3 days later, the remaining Xeraxian ships fled Earth's solar system. On the ground, the alien forces surrendered or were captured. The invasion that was meant to add another world to the Empire had ended in defeat. In Washington, D.C., now half in ruins, military and civilian leaders gathered to assess the situation. Jack Evans, his leg bandaged but healing, sat at the table, with Samantha Carter, Dr. Frank Miller, and others who had led the resistance. The Xeraxians are gone, General Harris announced. At least for now. But they'll be back. We'll be ready, Jack replied. We know their weaknesses now, and we have their technology. Dr. Miller nodded. I've been studying the equipment we captured. They're faster than light drives. They're energy weapons. We can adapt these for our own use. How long until they return? Someone asked. Based on their FTL capabilities, at least 3 years, Miller answered. Maybe longer if they need to build a new fleet. Then we have 3 years to prepare, Samantha said. We need to build our own ships, our own defenses. Jack looked around the table at the faces of those who had fought and sacrificed to save Earth. We won't just defend next time. We'll take the fight to them. 5 years passed. Earth had changed dramatically. Using reverse-engineered Xeraxian technology, humans had built their own fleet of spacecraft. The first colonies on Mars and the Moon were thriving. A global defense system had been established. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's first faster-than-light warship, Captain Jack Evans looked out at the stars. Beside him stood Dr. Frank Miller, now the head of Earth's Science Division, and Commander Samantha Carter, his executive officer. Course is set, Captain, Samantha reported. The Proxima Centauri colony is ready for our arrival. Jack nodded. Take us out, Commander. Full speed. As the Defiance leapt into FTL, Jack thought about how far humanity had come, from a species fighting for survival to one reaching for the stars. On distant worlds across the galaxy, news had spread about the defeat of the Xeraxian Empire at the hands of a previously unknown species that had lived in fear of the gods of war for millennia now whispered a new name in hope, human. Even the gods of war now whispered humanity's name in fear.